And I call the April 2nd Finance Committee meeting to order at 6:45:20. Consideration of claims. Chair would entertain a motion for the approval of claims.
Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion for the consideration of claims to be paid in the amount of $1,319,838.73. Manual checks in the amount of $4,150. Payroll and liabilities for March 22nd, 2024 in the amount of $508,096.16 for a total of $1,832,084.89.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, above the nose. Do we have anything, Kyle, do you have anything for us?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Does Mia,
Pardon me?
does Mia have anything for us?
Mia, do you have anything for us,
Your Honor.
please? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to exclude you. It was an oversight of a one-eyed man. So you have nothing?
I have nothing, Your Honor.
Okay. I have nothing either. We will call this 6:46 adjourned.
Well done.
I call the April 2nd, 2024 regular meeting of the City Council to order at 7 p.m. Councilmember Cox has agreed to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, after which Councilmember Kyle Larson will give us the invocation. If you could all please rise and remove your cover.
I pledge allegiance
Our eternal Heavenly Father, we are thankful for the opportunity to be here and serve the citizens of Riverton, Wyoming. Father, we would ask that Thou would watch over the first responders, our police department, our policemen. Please watch over and bless them. They might return home in safety to their families. Father, we would also ask that Thou might bless us with insight understanding that we might say and do the right things for the citizens of Riverton. We're thankful for this time of year, thankful for the previous Easter, and we say this, name Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Administrative Services Director, Mrs. Harris, could you please conduct the roll call?
Yes, Your Honor. Councilman Dean Peranto.
Here.
Councilwoman Lindsay Cox.
Here.
Councilman Mike Bailey.
Here.
Councilwoman Carla Borders.
Here.
Councilman Kyle Larson.
Here.
Councilwoman Christy Salisbury.
Here.
And Mayor Tim Hancock.
I am here and declare we have a quorum present. I'd entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Borders with the motion, Councilman Peranto with the second. Any discussion, additions, corrections, amendments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I vote aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Council committee reports, council members roundtable. Why don't we go ahead and start with Councilwoman Borders?
Lucky me.
I haven't had any meetings, Your Honor. I do know that PAWS is working on their community service grant application. I believe they've turned it in. And the Finance Committee met earlier. I'll let Kyle tell you about that. And that's about it.
Thank you. Councilman Larson.
There's a chair in the middle there. I've attended no meetings. The only meeting that's coming up is the solid waste on third Monday of the week of the month. Noted that the street sweepers have been out cleaning up lots and lots of sand that stopped the wrecks from occurring. Appreciative of that. And I know we've got the blacktop people out filling holes in the road. We're appreciative of that. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Salisbury.
Your Honor, I attended the Finance Committee meeting as well this evening, and I haven't had any other committee since the last time. But I do want to recognize Kathy Klein. I really appreciated your comments about the last meeting and how we need to be treating people having a civil conversation. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Councilman Bailey.
Okay, thank you. I also have not had any meetings since the last time we met. I did take advantage of spring break and took my granddaughter up to see her father and my other grandchildren, and so I got to spend a week in Alaska, where it's still wintertime.
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
we've got people. Can we open that up?
We can. How easy would it be to open the partition there, Mr. Butterfield?
Your Honor, it would probably be more disruptive to open that at this point. We could try and add more chairs on the front row if that's workable to you, and then we could add more chairs as folks come in. But if this is the total amount, we should be okay.
Mr. Warp up here is feeling a little lonely if somebody wanted to come sit near him. He's offered those chairs a couple of times.
There we go.
All right. Councilman Peranto. Oh, wait, no, Councilwoman Cox. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lindsay.
I don't have much to report. I haven't attended another meeting since our last meeting. I also enjoyed spring break with my kids, a little snowboarding. Guess I'm not ready to be over with winter either. The Edge Committee will meet on the 18th, and I wanted to just comment on the ice skating rink. We officially moved everything off of the Legion field. I appreciate the staff's effort getting that done and not flooding the field in the process. I know that took a little extra work, so that was great. I moved all the ice skates last week with my kids, and unfortunately, we had vandalism at the shed. Some kids broke out the windows, and the city staff came right up and boarded that up for us once I got all the skates put back, so I appreciate them responding quickly so those were secure for next year. And I think they're planning on hosting it again in the Tonkin Bowl next year. That's the plan anyway, so, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Now, Councilman Peranto.
Your Honor, I have had no committee meeting since our last council meeting to report on. But when it's on the 16th, the Edge Committee is?
Oh, did I say 16? I said 18th.
18th? Okay. And what time?
6 o'clock or 7 for that one, Mia?
It's 6 o'clock on the 18th.
Thank you very much. And that's it, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Butterfield.
Thank you, Your Honor. I do have a few things to run through. I appreciate the reminder about the Edge Committee meeting. We do invite the public to attend that and appreciate their involvement with that committee and also their involvement with the optional 0.5% tax for economic development. There will also be the Fix Our Road Citizens Committee this upcoming Monday at 11 o'clock. That will be here at City Hall in the bullpen area. And at risk of sounding like a broken record, we really would love people to show up to that because it's a great opportunity to talk about infrastructure and the optional 1% tax that helps support our roads and infrastructure. There will be Planning Commission meeting this Thursday at 5:30. And in addition to just referencing those meetings, there are a few other items I'd like to cover. We want to make note that the application period for the Edge Committee and application for funds for the optional 0.5% closed at the end of March. Similarly, the contract for services closed at that time as well. And this is an appropriate time to remind you that there will be a work session next week at 7 o'clock, and that will be an opportunity for you to receive presentations from those that submitted applications for funding from the contract for services. There's also a potential to have a legislative update from some of our local legislators. I've been in touch with those that are specific to Riverton. They were eager about the opportunity to come and report on their work this recent legislative session. And as we're coordinating schedules, as part of that work session, you may receive a legislative update if that's amenable to you. If not, it'll be on the 16th.
Have an issue with that? Let's put it on the agenda then.
Okay, very good. I would like to turn the time to Mr. Eggleston right now as he had opportunity to work with our airport board and receive some direction from them as it relates to some opportunities at Central Wyoming Regional Airport. So if it's okay, Your Honor, I'll defer to him on that, and then I have just another item to address once he's complete.
Sounds good. Mr. Eggleston?
Thank you, Your Honor and Council. Last airport board meeting, the airport board made a motion and voted unanimously to ask the council to direct staff to look into a flight school being located on the facility. Our airport division manager's already been in communication with a gentleman in Lander that's interested in moving his operations over. At this point, it's very preliminary. We need to find a location to house them, but it's fairly exciting. Flight schools are a big draw, so it could be a good boon. So without your direction, staff is already working on it, but to support their motion, I wanted to let you know what the airport board requested.
Sounds good. All right. I think we've got 2 thumbs up.
You
Good?
need like.
Yeah. I'm excited. That's great. I think that's a
Win-win.
good direction to go. So that sounds like a good opportunity. Thank you for seeking that out.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I do want to thank Mr. Eggleston and also Bruce Ransom for their work. We have a great airport board as well, great staff up there, and I appreciate their efforts to find ways to ensure that Central Wyoming Regional is vibrant and also offering services that would benefit our community. There was a lot of discussion among our senior staff members last week in our staff meeting about some conditions and a need to assist the A&T Mobile Home Park. This was referenced in your weekly report. And I'm thankful that Mr. Eggleston and also Mr. Miller are willing to coordinate an effort. That we do find some code enforcement violations in that neighborhood, but we also see a need for the community to assist that neighborhood, and the city's willing to coordinate that effort. A date will be selected in the future for an opportunity for community cleanup. There will be citations issued in that neighborhood to ensure that we're compliant with the code, but we also felt that this was a good gesture on behalf of the city to assist and coordinate with several community members to help ensure that that neighborhood receives attention and can get some improvements. The last thing I'd reference is Mr. Miller has been in contact with Fremont County School District 25 as it relates to a transfer of property to the city of Riverton. This actually started years ago when Willow Creek School was built, and a transfer of the right-of-way was never complete once the school was completed. The right-of-way in question is a small strip on the north side of the road directly in front of Willow Creek School along Monroe. The western portion of Monroe just before it turns and goes on to Major. The school district has been working with Mr. Miller and his staff, and documents have been prepared to finalize the transfer of this right-of-way, which is currently in the school district's name, but really should be within the city of Riverton as designated right-of-way because it is a public street. It's an area that we already maintain. So we wanted to make sure that you as a council were apprised of this. There's no action required on your part. The documents have been executed and signed as far as the school district goes. We just have to file them so long as you are okay with us accepting that right-of-way. So if we have your consensus, we'll file that tomorrow.
I think you have it.
Okay, very good. That, we appreciated the school district reaching out to us on that and just cleaning up something that, again, started almost 10 years ago, and it's just time to get that recorded. Your Honor.
Tell me where we're at with the TAP grant and the sidewalks over there along Major towards Willow Creek.
Yeah, Your Honor, I think it's a great time to provide that update. I know Mr. Eggleston and his staff recently met with the engineer, and if it's okay, I'll defer to him to give you an answer.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt your report with that.
Thank you, Your Honor and Council. We're still waiting for 90% plans, so we can get those plans down to YDOT for review. They have a 3-week turnaround time, so we've been working with the engineering firm. Time is of the essence right now if we want to get that thing constructed this season, so been leaning fairly heavily on the engineer to get it done.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Sorry, Mr. Butterfield, anything else you wanted to end with?
No, Your Honor, I'm okay.
Okay, thank you, sir. A couple of things then. I had the opportunity to speak about AT&T, not A&T, this last week. AT&T, through a government grant through the federal government, is in charge of the FirstNet program. So with need for emergency services, they ensure that there's connectivity. They, for example, might have mobile towers that they will use to be able to ensure that there's connectivity for cell phones, that sort of thing. Had an opportunity to meet with him, kind of gave an update on where things were going. Had the chance to go to the JC's egg hunt. That was a lot of fun with my kids at JC Park, which I thought was a pretty fitting place to do that. Enjoyed that. We had an opportunity to have a tax forum this last, let's see, when did we do that? Last week. I think it was a good opportunity to answer some questions, talk to folks about the half cent, the 1 cent, what's the difference between them, how do they function. So that was a good opportunity. It certainly had a pretty large crowd and had some good discussion about even property tax, too. So had some attendance from a lot of folks to that. Attended the Fremont County Association of Governments meeting. That was in Shoshone. I guess in terms of where things are going there, I was very glad to see that, so Wind River Transit Authority operates under the Fremont County Association of Governments. A large amount of what funds them is part of the half-cent tax. So 30% of that goes towards transportation, 10% of that going towards WRTA, 20% of that going towards the Central Wyoming Regional Airport. He was Tim Nichols, who is the new director of FCAG and of WRTA right now, was able to give us a report on where things were at and talked about plans for basically their 5-year plan. Very good report, very helpful. I said it might even be helpful to give that at a city council meeting, just to give an idea. He's planning on, so as you may know, right now, the way that the routes go is you have basically a clockwise and a counterclockwise route that's going to and from Lander, through Hudson, goes out to, I think, Fort Washakie, Ethity, and it provides connectivity for the county. And what he's talking about is over the next 5 years, increasing those routes to the point that you'll have about 5 or 6. He wants to add Du Bois and Shoshone to a route. He wants to have an inner-city route for Riverton so that we'd have more connectivity within the town. And then that would make it so that there's not as much time that they have to take for their clockwise or counterclockwise routes, so that it's basically 1 or 2 stops in Riverton rather than now where it's like 4 or 5. And so really is talking about different ways that they can expand their services. We're really well served by Tim Nichols in that position. He came to us with a lot of experience from working for UW and working their transit. He brings a wealth of experience and knowledge, and really appreciated his insight. And I guess be aware there's work going towards improving and making it so that it's easier to get around the county. I'm excited about the possibility of having a connection to Du Bois and Shoshone that's going to be with Wind River Transit Authority. So I don't know, we might try to get a hold of him and see if he can come and give his presentation to the city council, just so that folks that are here could see it as well. But as it stands now, he's going to, rather than having basically a clockwise versus counterclockwise route, it's going to be, I think it was red and yellow, a red route and a yellow route. I'm looking at Mayor Highsmith. I'm trying to read his mind. Maybe even green in there somewhere. Yeah, there was, one of them was purple too. There was a lot of different colors. But he's got a great vision, and I guess excited for that as it goes forward. So, all right, well, that's it from me. We'll move to communication from the floor, citizen comments. Anyone in the audience wishing to address an item that's scheduled for a public hearing, you'll be given an opportunity to speak during that public hearing. If you want to address the item on another item or the council on another item that is currently on the agenda, try to get my attention when that's on the agenda. We'll try to give you an opportunity to speak. In either event, I'd ask you to leave your comments to 5 minutes for individuals. If you're a part of a group, I'd ask you to split up between the members of your group and take up 10 minutes. But if you could approach the podium, give us your name, and if you're with an organization, tell us what organization you're with. But the time is yours to talk.
Okay, so if it's not on the agenda, then what?
Oh, if it's not on the agenda, you can feel free to come up now. Okay. Thank you. That was part of my blurb I didn't give very well.
Good morning, council, or good afternoon, I'm sorry, wrong time, different state. I do want to commend the officers, Riverton PD, coming out and doing the best to help handle the situation with squatters down there at the AT, or All Nations Park. I really do appreciate Captain Romeo. My chief was out in the family business, taking care of those businesses for us. I talked to Kyle and about the cleanup, and I'm going to see if we can get a GoFundMe to help try to help you guys at the same time. I don't know how it's going to work out. Reaching out to a couple of the reservation people and seeing how they are, because they have some rentals there as well, and see where we can go with that. Again, if I can get a little bit of time, get a little bit of the group there that does willing to make a difference in our community, to make the change ahead of time, we can get them together and see what we can do. And again, I commend you all for taking part in trying to get that fixed for us and be a better situation for everybody there. Again, that shooting, what was it, last month or something? We still kind of wondering about what's going on with that. Another thing is that I talked to Kyle about this, and I don't know how you guys have thought about it lately, but getting police officers down here, very well-trained police officers down here, was giving them an allowance for housing. I don't know, maybe you guys ought to check that out. And I know they're getting paid a little bit better, thank God, but it is a dangerous job. It very is. I mean, even though we're a small community, we still do have a lot of cartel people coming in from the wrong side of town, making just a bunch of trouble here. We need to clean it up and do the better job that we can do for our community. And again, I thank you all for helping out and helping all nations out as well. Again, very, very much thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pro.
Hi, my name's Diamond Johnson. Recently, I came out to Riverton, Wyoming to visit my sister, and I grew up in Lovell, Wyoming 24 years ago. I'm sorry, this is going to be a little hard for me because I came out here because my mother passed away. She was a postal carrier for 30 years in Ritzville, Washington. My sister works for the DMV, Deborah Herron, in Riverton, Wyoming, and also Lander. I was coming out here to see my sister, and unfortunately, the situation, I was stopped in Missoula, Montana, I was just sitting, and the police, somebody had called and said I was banging my head up against my steering wheel. Okay, I inherited a vehicle from my parents. The tabs have expired as of March 31st, which was 2 days ago. So even though my sister was on vacation, I tried to go to the Lander office for the DMV to license the vehicle, and I was going to move on to go down to Idaho and visit my son in Virginia. He's a sergeant in the Marines. And because of the DMV was closed, I've been here about 2.5 weeks. It was closed in Lander. Then I was supposed to go, then I went to the DMV here in Riverton. On the 4th week, it's in Dubois. So I have basically extinguished all of my funds that was supposed to be a trip, just a round trip to plan for my mother's memorial, which she was a postal carrier in Ritzville, Washington. And I have basically been to every DMV, and none of the offices have been open on the day. I spoke to this lady named Carla, which is the head of the DMV, and she told me, well, Dubois is like 75 miles away. So I've been driving back and forth to all these places, and when I was driving, the GPS for the Garmin, it took me on a loop in Lander. So I was driving on the outside. I could not find it. I drove it day and night. So I used my Apple Maps on my phone, and there's no specific signs really when you go into Lander for the DMV. It just says Department of Transportation. Also here in Riverton, Wyoming, when you go up, I passed by it the first night, and I saw this building. It kind of looked like a hospital. I saw people in it, and I was driving towards the hospital. The next day, I was at the dealership, and this man named Adam told me, oh yeah, it's just a satellite office, and I saw family services. So every place that I've gone, it doesn't state that it's the Department of Motor Vehicles, okay? And I basically was here for a week and a half because my driver's license when I was pulled over in Montana was not delivered to me. So I had no identification. I had no way of getting a hotel room and staying over or anything, and not burdening my sister of being able to stay at her house. I did not ask her to because I felt that this situation, this little hiccup was going to be fixed. So here we are on the 3rd week. I'm in EMT class in Ritzville, Washington. I had to communicate with them and say that I need to Zoom my classes, and I continued on with my studies. And I'm working at East Adam Rural Hospital in Ritzville, Washington, also Wyndham Days Inn. So as my money was depleting, I've applied for certain jobs around here in town, like Holiday Inn. I've applied at Domino's. Let's see, where else have I applied? I applied at the hospital. So because I knew that my depletion of my funds, I wasn't going to be able to have a place to live and not burden my sister moving. I basically had to move here because of my funds was supposed to be just a round trip to see the family. We were supposed to plan the memorial in Ritzville, Washington. And because of the fact that you guys do not have any signs that state that it's a Department of Motor Vehicles, it just says it's Family Services, okay? So now I went to the DMV 2 days ago on Monday. My sister was working, but she was at lunch. My sister can't fix my problems or anything, but the fact of the situation is you guys are putting up cameras in there, new cameras, but when you walk up, I was addressing this lady. I've gone to church at Set Free Community. Her name's Midge. She's blind. And she tripped on the steps going up. So there's not exactly any lighting or and I'm partially sighted. I'm blind on my right side. I have suffered a stroke. I have a service dog. He guides me, but she does not have a service dog. So I asked them, I said, when's the city council meeting going to happen? And they told me, and I said, well, that's a good situation. That's a good conversation that I would like to bring up to you guys. Maybe when you go up to the family services, maybe you guys can post some signs that say Department of Motor Vehicles. I don't know about Lander, but and some kind of schedule because seriously, I've been here for nearly almost 4 weeks and I'm living in my truck and my tags, she told me on Wednesday, I have to go down to the fairgrounds to get a temporary. So whether you guys have it in Dubois, or whether you have it in Lander, maybe you guys could update on Google or something stating how the system works. Because I've been to the dealership, like the truck's going into the dealership tomorrow, and it's going to be fixed, the things that need to be fixed on the vehicle. But right now I'm looking for a place of employment, a place to live now, and my jobs are exceeded because I'm not able to go back. I'm not able to even be able to drive, so I'm filing for unemployment. During the situation of the rest of the week, I found somebody's phone. I took it to the police department. This man was ran over and he was taken to the hospital, and that's why his phone was sitting in the workforce parking lot. So I make up flyers with my own money, and I take it over to this place called the Cedar Bar. I was attacked with my service dog because I brought in a flyer by the bar patron, the lady that was running it. So I go out the back foyer, and I see it, and it doesn't say exit or anything, but because of the fact I am a high-functioning autistic person that is dyslexic, I may not function like the rest of you, but I'm highly intelligent. I'm not a person that has a criminal background. I've never been in trouble with the law. But I do plan on continuing my education here in Riverton. I'm going to be a citizen here. And however this turns out, I just want to ask you guys, could you guys please put some painting up for the steps, in areas. And I actually seen this kid that hit on the side of the road. He hit a dealership and he came out on Main Street and his axle actually popped and broke the whole vehicle that he just bought less than a month ago, and he was working at Les Schwab. So I was at Les Schwab today. He's cussing because he lost, and they fired him because he actually went up on a curb because there was no paint where the curbs come up, and it's right here down here on the corner. I also hit a curb on the pit stop. So if you guys can find some funding to be able to put new cameras up in the family services, maybe we could find some money to properly, paint some of the areas around here, helpful for people that are blind, partially sighted, because this woman literally tripped as she was going up the stairs, even though there's a wheelchair ramp. And I have a photographic memory. I can tell you exactly how everything happened because I see it and I can convey it to you. But I can't sit there and convey something about a conversation, but I can tell you exactly what happened. So therefore, moving forward, what do you guys think about that?
Well, we can definitely talk about it.
Okay.
I appreciate that, and we'll, I do know that in terms of the Department of Motor Vehicles, it gets a little confusing
It is very confusing.
in the DFS building. I'm not sure what kinds of plans they'd have in terms of signage there, but appreciate you visiting with us.
Okay, well, I'm not going anywhere, so my car's stuck right out there at the police station until I get some, proper licensing. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Hi. Okay, so my name is
Bramer, and
Karen Bramer. I think most people know. I'm here to actually contest a citywide pesticide, so-called mosquito control. There are more efficient ways to safeguard from being bitten by mosquitoes instead of being fogging throughout the week in the summertime. I have to say, as long as I've been here, while this mosquito campaigning is going on, I have yet to see a single dead mosquito on the ground. They're not that small, you should be able to see them. However, what I do found out is there's a lot of bees, dragonflies, hummingbirds are starting to disappear, because I used to have like a whole bunch of them in my yard coming back, because I have a bush there. There was a lot of bees there, a lot of birds come visit. They really liked that, and they started to disappear. Through our graciousness of our mayor, I've asked him what exactly you guys are spraying and what's actually being used. I've also gotten a hold of the material safety data sheets, which is kind of off those sheets, plus research is what I gave you guys. I'd appreciate if you actually read that. I have actually a folder this tall that's everything that's supposed to be in there. I was asked to combine the stuff, so this is the shortest I can get it. I'll go through this in a minute, but while I'm reading this to you, I want you to imagine your kids rolling around, playing in your grass in your yard. You out there barbecuing and that spray bark comes by. Your pets out in the yard and bringing that stuff in your house. Why is your dog chewing on its feet? Your backyard animals, hey, chickens, horses, cows, whatever you got out there, they can't get away from that. And also your gardens, people put tomatoes, plant tomatoes, plant peppers and whatever, buckets in the ground, doesn't matter, it's still gonna get to it. What that's gonna be like, I'd like for you to do this. I find it irresponsible to expose this whole town because of a few paranoids, okay, that supposedly kill this virus that really is no worse than a cold. Because I have looked that up about all the Zika virus, nice virus, and all that stuff, because that's really the effect it's going to do. There's plenty of remedies. And if you do have a worse case in it, there's actually medication that you can take preventive and at the time. I really believe that you do not need to expose the whole town to this, whether it's wanted or not, to this so-called mosquito campaign and sprinkle that stuff in everybody's face, basically, just for a few people. Okay, he's going to go ahead and go over to tell you about the ingredients.
okay, so what earlier, we passed out little handouts. It's kind of a breakdown what I actually have in this folder right here. There's about maybe a good 100 pages or so of everything. What happened is when my wife went and researched the components inside, it dug it down, she dug it down more and more because it kept adding to, and adding to. So that's why this package is so thick. And believe it or not, like 2 pieces of paper worth the material safety data sheet is, it's really a thick job here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and read over a few of the some of the components of these pesticides that you all are using from so-called safety data sheets that we received. And like I said, you got a copy of it up there too. I'll just kind of skim over so we can make time here, but the first one is Fifanin 440EW. The hazards may cause an allergic skin reaction, very toxic to aquatic life with long-lasting effects. Avoid breathing mist or vapors. Avoid release to the environment, and do not allow into runoffs or enter into drains or water. Is the contact pesticide consisting of dust and wettable powder created in a fine mist, coating plants and vegetation, basically everything that stays and lingers around. When coming into contact with the pesticide, the insect's supposed to die immediately or carry it to their hives, like say for bees, which in turn the colony dies. The main ingredient is called methonium. Methonium is also a carbohydrate, carbosis, mercipion, and some of these you can't pronounce. You know, it's not an everyday word. And melastone is a pesticide used in agriculture, residential landscaping, public recreation areas, and public health pest control programs such as mosquito eradication. It's mostly commonly used in organic phosphate insecticide in the U.S. It's considerably highly toxic to bees and other beneficial insects, invertebrates, fish like bass, and supposedly moderate toxicity to birds. It's a yellowish-brown liquid combined with odimnol, with phosphosphate, and diethyl maltate, practically soluble in water, meaning cannot be loosened or undone. Incapable of being dissolved is an acylic cholesterol inhibitor. It occurs naturally in venoms and poisons, i.e. orchard or used in weapons like for nerve gas, and medically be used for like Botox. Upon uptake into the organism, it binds diversity to the serine residue in the active catalyst site of the cholesterol, and invariably deactivation of the enzyme, which leads to rapid buildup of acetylcholine and the synapse. Preventing these enzymes from acting on its normal substrate, the neurotransmitter acetylcholine, also organic compound that functions in the brain of humans and animals. It is the chemical that motor neurons in the nervous system activate muscle in humans and animals alike, resulting in continuous activation of acetylcholine receptors, leading to TEP, tetraphosphate poisoning. TEP is a highly toxic for all warm-blooded animals and humans. TEP and other insecticides also used by the English as nerve gas in World War II, and that was kept quiet and secret by the military. Next, we're going to go into Clark. It's a little bit longer. The hazards for Clark may be fatal if swallowed and entered into the airways, harmful if inhaled, avoid breathing, mist, or spray. It's used in medication to treat scabies and lice and skin cream and can cause rash and irritation. As an insecticide, it is used to be sprayed on other clothing and mosquito nets to kill insects that touch them. In agriculture, applied to protect crops, mainly for cotton, wheat, maize, and alfalfa. Being such a broad spectrum, chemical kills is discriminately meaning intended pests and beneficial insects, including honeybees, cats, and fish and aquatic life. Designed to incapacitation or killing insects on contact, however, it does not prevent it from landing on you. It acts on a nerve cell membrane to disrupt all the sodium channels occurring with the polarization of the membrane. It's regulated, delayed repolarization, and paralysis of the pest are consequences of this disturbance. It is considered to be a moderately toxic if indigested or inhaled and can cause headache, respiratory irritation, difficulty breathing, dizziness, nauseousness, and vomiting. Animal studies have suggested it might cause endocrine disruption by interfering with androgenic activity, but studies on humans have not been performed, although it is recommended that breastfeeding be temporarily discontinued during treatment. Excessive exposure to permethrin can cause muscle weakness, excessive salivation, shortness of the breath, and seizures. Based on studies which the mice were fed permethrin, developed a liver and lung cancer, and is considered not any noticeable genotoxicity or immunotoxicity, but classified by the EPA as a likely human carcinogen. It's mostly used in tropical areas to prevent mosquito-borne disease by treating mosquitoes, nets, and clothing with sodium solution of permethrin. Pyranol butoxide is a synergist component of pesticides formulation, has no pesticidal activity of its own. It is used to enhance the potential of pesticides such as carbonates, fibromins, thyroids, and rosatone. It is a systematic deviation of a saffron and mainly used in combination with insects such as pyrethroids and fibroids. It acts as insecticide by inhibiting the natural defense mechanism and mixed function oxidase system of the primary route of detoxification. Thus, PBO is added as a higher levels remain in their lethal effect. PBO has also been found to inhibit the signaling pathway and critical regulator of brain and face development in all vertebrates by antagonism and the protein smothered SMO capable of causing dose-dependent brain and face malformation explode during early development, including human birth defect, even doses of PBO that did not cause homopress sensitivity associated facial abnormalities to cause neuromechanical defects for cognitive or behavioral consequences. It was also found that PBO exposure was correlated in neurocognitive development in children 3 years old. Peripherin delays closure of the voltage-gated sodium channels in the nerve cells of insects and results in a repeated and extended nerve firing and increasingly used insecticides. The number of illness and injuries associated with exposure to these chemicals is also increasing. Purethrin toxicity in humans occur most quickly through respiration through the lungs or most slowly absorbed through the skin. In mammal, toxic exposure can lead to tongue and lip numbness, muscle tremors, respiratory failure, paralysis, and death. A possibility to damage the immune system exists. Infants are unable to resourcefully break down pyrethrum due to the ease of skin penetration, causing similar symptoms as adults, but with increased risk of death.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I don't want to interrupt you, but we have reached 10 minutes. We have this.
Say one more thing.
Reed, yeah, go ahead.
I really like to see this thing go because each and every one of us can do their own measures. You know, some of them are really simple as just removing all the standing water. If you got, flower pots or something and there's water sitting in it, empty the sucker out or turn it upside down so it doesn't linger in there. Cut your grass, don't let it go knee high, because this is all typical breeding grounds. Some of it is really, really simple. I really don't think that the city really even needs to spend the money on it. And also, I actually have an issue as far as those so-called no spray signs. We have caught them several times that the driver does not actually adhere to that. They just ignore it and blast through it anyway. Then two, one of the things that I've noticed is every year, you have to go back down there, register, and get another spray sign. You have to go, wait for them to bring it out. Sometimes they're already started the cycle before they actually show up. Then they fall apart, right? So what I don't get is why can we not put our own sign on there, or at the very least minimum have one sign and not have an expiration date on it, or having to go down there each and every year. And then two, I like to also have a complaint about the people that work there because they're absolutely rude. Thank you. And that's all I got to say to that.
All right. Thank you both. Appreciate you coming in and speaking with us.
Yes.
Actually, in California, they have these things called mosquito houses that you can hang in your trees. Just a FYI, kind of thing,
Go ahead.
Mayor and Council, I'm here tonight to speak to you on behalf of myself and the Chamber Board. And this is not my area of expertise speaking. My area of expertise is mortgage lending and volunteering. I just want to clear up a little bit of misinformation when I can. I feel like the Chamber has been really put on the spotlight, and there's a lot of misinformation out there. And as you all know, we can't share items of personnel. That's not public knowledge. But what I would like to share with the council and the community, is that where they're at, the public? I'd like to share with the public and the press that the executive director was not released from her duties because she was the whistleblower, and that's all I'm going to say to that. And what I'd also like to do is, like I said, I'm going to have two hats. I'd like to give everybody a little bit of history on Wind River Visitors Council and TAD. So Wind River Visitors Council money has come down through TAD to the Chamber for years. And throughout that time period, that money has been managed effectively and responsibly by past and present chamber boards and committees. I do not feel any of that funds were misused, and that's the perception out there, that the funds have been misused for years. What has happened in 21, 22, I might be a little bit off on my years, but after COVID, when the dollars accelerated from the tourists coming through here, that accelerated Winter Visitors Council to the level where they had to have over $1 million, and so they had to have an audit. And so new rules were put into place at that point. And when those new rules were put into place, they came down the pipeline. And basically, those rules kind of evolved into the city having the MOU with the current chamber board. That did not go into effect till June 15th. And what I'd like to share with you guys is that what happened with that transaction with the $1,800, and it's been escalated out there in the public that it's $16,000, it's $20,000, it's whatever. It was a tune of $1,800, and it was all an honest mistake, and throw us under the bus for making a mistake, but we did. And the step that we missed, we went and looked at our 23-24 budget. Our 23-24 budget showed that we had funds available budgeted in there for TAD. This current board had not used any of those TAD funds since we came on in July of 23. And those funds, Helen Wilson, Executive Director for Winter Visitors Council, just came to the Chamber Board in January, and she shared with the board, the new board, that we could use those funds for visitor center overhead and salaries. Okay, we heard that in January. We're overdrawn? Yes. We have to make payroll. We go to our budget. Yes. We can use TAD funds. We pull from TAD to cover that. That's how that all went down. What we missed was on June 15th was when we signed the new MOU with the city, and shame on us, we did not remember to go back to that new MOU and look at it and see that we had to come to the council to get pre-approval for advancing those funds. So that's where we made the mistake. Okay? So I'm going to put on my family hat, or my personal hat now, and just go back to a little bit about me. So volunteering has been in my family since I was a kid. My parents raised 4 of us siblings, 4 of us kids, 11 months apart, both full-time jobs, and they volunteered continuously. That's how I grew up. Volunteering was the way it was done in our family. So then when I went on to the bank, and in banking regulations, they have CRA, which is Community Reinvestment Act. We at that time as officers were required to participate in at least 2 organizations within the community to give our time and efforts back to this community. So volunteering has been in my blood since I was a child, and then in my career working at the bank. And then when I retired, I took it on full time. Silly me, why would I do something like that? I guess because it was in my heart. Brett Watson and I, when I say why did I take it on, Brett Watson and I were both officers at First Interstate Bank. We spent a lot of time talking about how people were judging and misjudging this community. And we both said when we retire, we're going to pour our hearts into making this the best absolute community we can. Brett got to do his through Riverton Above and Beyond. And then if any of you ever followed that, he was an amazing writer. And we shared a lot of conversations on what we could do. I didn't have that ability to write, so I jumped into volunteering. When I jumped into it, it was interesting. I went out to some of these different businesses, and people, when I walk in the door, when we started the Riverton Bastards, they would say, well, now who are you with? And I've been asked, who are you with? What's your interest in this? What's your affiliation with this? Why are you tied to this? And I've always felt like I had to give them a reason that I'm part of an organization. Can't you just be, as our economic development building blocks and structures say, that I'm just a champion and a cheerleader for this community? And that's why I'm here. It doesn't matter if I'm part of the chamber. I will continue to be a volunteer and a cheerleader and a champion for this community because my heart is in this community. So I'm going to put on my chamber hat for a minute. So we've been asked through all of this fiasco that's going on, what does the chamber do for me? So I'm just going to read you a little bit of list of here that some of the things that the chamber does for this community. We do lunch and learns on the first Friday of every month, and you can mark your calendars, April 5th. Wyoming Business Resource Network is going to be speaking at CWC for their lunch and learn. We do after-hour socials. Those after-hour socials have not been what they were in the past. I mean, I went to them 40 years ago, and my gosh, the whole community came. The council was there. The mayor was there. Everybody was there. You don't get people to come to those now, so we're trying to figure out a way to restructure those, maybe do them in blocks or groups, where you have businesses that clump together, and we do them there, and then they invite their nonprofit organizations to be a part of it too, so we can grow those and get more involvement. And speaking of these after-hour socials, you know, after all this happened, the board met several times, and we said, should we just walk away from this, especially after the last council meeting? And this board is so committed and strong that they said, no, we want to keep going. I wanted to throw my hat in. They're the reason I'm keeping going. It isn't because I want to keep going. I mean, I do, but if I didn't have their support, I would walk away easily. Until today, then today was a really good day for me because I get a text from a local businessman, and he wants to get contact information for another businessman because he doesn't have the contact information. I get him that information. I'm a resource for people when they need it. I don't feel like that's a detriment. I feel like I'm a know-it-all. I feel like it's an asset for people to be able to reach out to me, which they do on a regular basis. Next, I get 2 thank yous, one from CWC and one from Kathy Klein, thanking me for hurrying up and jumping on and getting them from the chamber 2 letters of support for their grants that they're writing. Next, I get a call from the new guy, Zach Haskell, moving here from Warland to open Haskell's Furniture. He's all excited, and he wants to do an after-hour social. He wants to do a ribbon cutting and introduce his son, or his brother. And then I called Garth Yates to thank him for sending that person to my personal cell phone. And Garth started talking about these guys and what an asset they'll be to our community. And we started talking about the multi-sports complex. And it just all ties together with this unity and making our community grow. So when I asked myself, do we need a chamber? Today just told me we do need a chamber. Okay, I got off track, sorry. I need some water. So we've got the Ag Appreciation Magnet. Mark your calendars for April 20th. Thank you, Victor and James, board members. They're taking the lead on that. Annual Meet Your Legislator sessions we do every year. Annual First Responders Appreciation Dinner is October 26th. Terry Hurd is a chamber board member, and he's our committee chair for that. This will be our 2nd year for that. James heavily supports the Rendezvous City Beef Roundup, and that's on August 24th. And James also is there, always helping with the Balloon Rendezvous. Wyoming Business Community Economic Development Program. James, Morgan, and myself were heavy players in that, and the top 2 projects that came out of that were the multi-sports complex, which I'm working very closely with folks on, and with the city and Kyle. And I guess you guys are going to hear a resolution tonight from Kyle to do the grant. And I hope you guys will do that resolution. There's a new visitor center regional tourist attraction that I've been working on with Kathy Klein, Beth Montero, and myself, and we hope to make progress with that here in the near future. And I'm heavy helping with the 1.5% economic development sales tax, advocating heavy duty for that, because we all know that if we don't have that, we won't have air service or ground transportation, and that is critical to our community, which we all know. Kathy Rosenthal's not here, but her and myself were instrumental in a $6.5 million grant for totally redoing our trails. We've not heard anything back on that, but that was a lot of work with that project. That will enhance our community if that moves forward. Kathy and myself are working on the wayfinding project with Winter Visitors Council, and Devin on our board is working on the 2nd annual Soapbox Derby, July 27th. So those are a few of the things that we're involved with. Doesn't sound like the chamber does anything to me. So I don't know about you guys, but I feel like the chamber is pretty well involved. So now what I want to do is, before I introduce him though, Colin Crippen. He's been with us for 1.5 years. He's our admin for the chamber. Colin is a trooper. He's been through 2 boards, 2 executive directors, 5 months with no executive director, and he had to manage a museum plus run the chamber in the absence of an executive director. He's been through 3 moves. We had to move from Maine to Wind River Heritage Center, back from Wind River Heritage Center to the Main Street location, and now Maine back to Fremont Local. We're at Fremont Local. We moved there Okay, 10 days ago we moved there. And Colin has, or admin has pretty much got us settled in there. We love that location because it's going to be a huge asset for tourists, because when they come in there, they get their they get their local food, they get their artists, their local artists and crafters, and then they get the visitor center. So we just feel like that's a good fit. Is parking good? But there's no good parking on Main Street, period. And it's in affordable range for our budget, because we've made sure that our budget is manageable. Well, we're trying to make our budget as manageable as we possibly can. So with that, I would like to recognize Colin for all of the hard work that he has done. Colin, where are you?
I want to interrupt because we should all be standing for all the work Colin's done over the last few years. He's been amazing. Thank you, Colin.
He's been our rock. If nothing's been consistent, it's been Colin. Okay, on the board, you guys. The board is all volunteers. And the past and present boards have been doing many things behind the scenes that you guys aren't aware of. They put monetary contributions into the chamber with nothing in return. That's some of the things that have been keeping this chamber sustainable, is the fact that our memberships are down, but all of these volunteer board members are business people that believe highly in this chamber and our community, and they're willing to invest in it with their own money outside of their memberships. And I think that needs to be recognized. The executive director is not, I'm an interim director, and I'm also the vice president. I am not a paid interim director. I am not a paid interim director. I want everybody to know that. And I also want everybody to know that this is not an 8 to 5 job. An executive director is not an 8 to 5. It's not a Monday through Friday. It's 24/7. And if we want to get an executive director that wants to work those kind of hours, we've got to figure out a pay level that's going to get somebody that wants to work those hours. Okay. Does the community, okay, this is the question. Does the community need or want a chamber? Well, the current chamber board believes that we do. Our EDOs, the Wyoming Business Council, and I believe that some of the community and the businesses do believe that we need a chamber. But the bottom line is what I just said. All of our partners need to step up financially and help us get to a point where we can get this. We're basically rebuilding the chamber. And if we don't have the money to rebuild it, then I guess I don't know what the next step is. But we'll take that when we get there. From here, I would like to introduce, because I'm very proud to serve with the board, we have James Bunker. James, come up, guys. I want you all up here, please. James, Victor, Alma, Morgan. Alma? Come on. So I'm going to tell you a little bit. I know you guys think my time's up, but I'm going to talk. I'm going to tell you a little about James. As you guys all know, he gives tirelessly to this community. With everything that goes on, he steps up. James is there. That's why we want James the face of our chamber. So, James, thank you for everything that you do. And next we have our vice president. No, we don't. I'm sorry. She's on. Devon's online. No, who's our vice president? Oh, I am. Sorry.
This is Julie. She's our VP.
Okay, we have our treasurer, Victor Allen. Victor moved here 5 years ago from Tennessee. He's a senior VP at Wyoming Community Bank. He manages about 9 to 10 officers. And his wife is part of the Garden Club. She's on the Senior Center and Riverton Senior Center. And they fell in love with this community. And Victor, this is his first volunteer job? Not be? Okay, well, that's not what he said. 2 weeks ago was his first city council meeting. He said that was his last, but he came today. So thank you, Victor.
Thanks for coming, Victor.
So Victor has been very instrumental, and we are so lucky to have him and his wife in this community. Pam came down and helped us move, and helped us clean. Yeah, and they are down at the senior center whenever there's dances going on down there. And then I'll just go through. And then we have Michelle. Michelle Luoma has been on, she's the longest standing board member, and Michelle has been on the chamber for how long, Michelle? 3 years. Michelle works at CES, and she gives tirelessly to the folks at CES, and she also volunteers with I don't know if she does Dancing with the Stars, but her husband helps with that. And then she's Festival of Trees, and big heart, and lots of community support. And then we have our youngest, Morgan Doyle. She's the manager down at Fremont Local, and her parents own Doyle Farms, east of town, and she is our Spitfire. Someday we're gonna put her in charge of this, because she's got a lot of spit behind her. And then we've got Terry Hurd, and Terry's fairly new to town from California with his family here. Okay, well, he escaped from California.
Escape to the west.
But Terry serves, in addition to the chamber board, Terry serves on the fire department, and he is the captain. Is that correct? A captain in the fire department. He serves on search and rescue with my husband. What am I missing, Terry? That's plenty good. Okay. And then we have Alma Law. And my little story with Alma is I don't really know what he's doing now, but I can tell you that I first met Alma when I was working at the bank, I think, and he asked me to come give a presentation to the high school kids about volunteering in the community. So I guess I was doing quite a bit back then. I don't even remember how we connected with that, but what was really cool was Alma connected with those kids, and those kids connected with him, and I just thought that he was the coolest teacher that there was, and I wished I'd had him as a teacher when I was there. And then since then, Alma, he's been doing the ghost stories around town, and heavily involved with Fremont Local down there as well. So what I'm telling, and I got to make sure I don't forget anybody on my list. Okay, so Kathy Rosenthal's not here tonight, but Kathy also moved back here from Sheridan to be with her family and help with the family ranch. And she's an ex-JC, and she's heavily involved in everything in this community, and she's a true asset. She is the executive director or director for Wind River Lower Conservation District. Okay, who am I missing, guys? Devin. And Devin moved here from Ohio, and Devin is also in PAWS and has a very strong passion for animals. And she's a realtor. What's that? Balloon Club. Yep. Oh, and she'll be our derby. She'll be our derby gal. Soapbox
Also
derby.
your secretary who does all the paperwork.
Yeah. Oh God, and she is an amazing secretary. She truly is an amazing secretary. So anyhow, please appreciate. Thank you. I have one more thank you out here. You stand up, Ray. Stand up, Ray. My husband and my rock. He's the one that keeps me going. Actually, he's the one that tells me, what are you doing, you crazy person? But he's always there to support me. Thank you, Ray. Love you. So my final words to you guys are, and to the community and everybody that's listening, you have a strong, united, respected board that wants to move this community forward. You guys, everybody needs to make the decision for the future of the chamber. So that's where I'm going to leave it. God bless this community, and God bless America.
I had no intentions of getting up here, but my name is Tara Alley. I'm a local business owner, and first of all, thank you for all that you do individually and as a group, because I know there's a lot that you guys do behind the scenes that we don't know about. So a lot of times I think people come to these meetings and yell and scream at you guys and expect you to do something about things that you don't have control over. So thank you for all that you do. Also, thank you to the chamber. We are new members to the chamber. Thank you for everyone that's on the chamber, the board. I was not here for the last city meeting, but I did watch it in its entirety. It was very hard for me to watch because I felt like someone was very personally attacked, and that person does a lot for our community, a lot, more than probably anybody in this town, and that is Julie Buller. And she is such an amazing, we call her our bulldog at the gym, because if you want somebody to fight for you, she's the one you go to. She will fight for any cause. She supports the RPD, she supports first responders, she supports the entire community. So I just thought to take the opportunity to thank her personally, and all of you for all that you do for our community, and it doesn't go unseen.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name's Kip Post. I'm here as a couple different things, but first and foremost as a board member of Wind River Visitors Council. I wasn't able to attend the meeting last week or 2 weeks ago. But I want to clear a couple things up as a member of that board. The press is a little bit to blame for this because they print a whole lot of opinion, op-eds, instead of asking the truth and asking for multiple opinions. They just print one person's opinion. And it's caused a lot of the fervor that's out there that isn't true. The first of those, Helen Wilson, the director for the Wind River Visitors Council, was quoted as saying that she had grave concerns about the monies that the Riverton Chamber had spent on the TAD. That might be Helen's opinion, but is it in no way the board's opinion? The board approved that budget back in January, which was presented by the prior director, Tiffany, with no questions whatsoever on that budget. We've approved that budget multiple years in a row. And Riverton has never been in question on how they spend the money. Have there been questions? Sure. But Riverton's asked those questions. And those questions have been answered, and they've spent those funds just fine. We had a Visitors Council meeting last week, and I talked to several different board members. Not a single board member that I spoke to agreed with Helen that the chamber had done anything inappropriate. They spent $1,800 without getting permission first, but that $1,800 was spent with something that they had absolute authority to spend it on. The Visitors Council has nothing, they said no issues at all with the way the chamber spent those funds. The other thing I want to talk a little bit about, and I am friends with Julie and Ray and most of the people on the board, and they brought this up, but the amount of time and money that they spend on the chamber, nobody gets it. They just don't. You know, the people you had up here complaining last week, I haven't seen a single one of those people involved in committees, on board members, volunteering time, working to clean up the park, working at the ice rink, sitting in city council meetings, except when they want to get up and complain. If you want to find the truth, the media needs to talk to the people that are actually doing the work instead of the people that are complaining. It's getting a little old. And there was also some questions raised on Julie's actions at the Wind River Visitors Council. The board president for the Wind River Visitors Council responded to the mayor's request and provided information that the rest of the board also did not support. He spoke completely out of turn. He had no right to speak for the board, and he did that. And I don't know if where that decision went, what it lent to, but I needed to make absolute certain that as a board, we are not represented incorrectly. And that was done by Helen and the president of the Wind River Visitors Council board. And I would ask that anytime an entity or a group wants an opinion from an organization, they need to ask the organization, not an individual on an organization that might have an issue, a personality conflict with someone. Julie's a bulldog, absolutely. You know, I love it. Sometimes I want to choke her because she makes me busy. But I love it, you know, and that causes some personality conflicts. But if you want something done, Julie's a person to go to. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
I also had not planned on coming up here to speak, and I'm not going to speak. But I do want Mayor and the council, Susan Getzinger, I want the mayor and council to know, everybody in the audience stand up that is in support of the chamber. Thank you.
Don't know very much about it, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
So I'm Kathy Klein. I live in Riverton, and I just want to say one thing. Man, are we blessed. We have a lot of people who care about Riverton and are willing to give their time and their energy and even their money to make this place better. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. We'll move on. Mayor.
Yes, Joel Highsmith. I'm also on the Wind River Visitors Council. I would like to echo pretty much what Kip had just said. And yes, Julie Bueller is definitely a bulldog and a go-to person. But I would like to pretty much echo exactly what he said from the Wind River Visitors Council from my perspective as one member.
Thank you, sir. All right, well, we've got a,
Your Honor, I'd just like to say I appreciate everyone attending tonight so much, and I think I can speak for the council. We are in complete support of the chamber. I want you to know that.
I just want to say everyone calls Julie a bulldog, but she has one of the biggest hearts and cares and is one of the softest people too, so.
all right, we have a lot of things to get done on the agenda. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming and speaking. I appreciate it. I appreciate our chamber members here and our chamber board. Thank you for coming. You're welcome to stick around if you want. You're welcome to take off if you want. You're welcome to stand up and stretch if you want, Mr. Herron. But we'll move on. Administrative Services Director, Ms. Harris, could you please read us the consent agenda items by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. Approval of the minutes, March 19th, 2024, regular council meeting. Approval of the minutes, March 19th, 2024, council work session.
Take a small break. Go ahead.
I'm going to start over. Approval of the minutes, March 19th, 2024, regular council meeting. Approval of the minutes, March 19th, 2024, council work session. Approval of the minutes.
As you're filing out, could you please not speak so that we can continue with our meeting? Thank you.
Approval of the minutes, April 2nd, 2024, Finance Committee meeting. Approval of the Finance Committee recommendations, April 2nd, 2024.
Thank you. Are there items requiring further discussion?
Kyle, you're up.
I almost fell asleep here. We met at the Finance Committee agenda, and bills to be paid were in the amount of $13,319,838.73. Manual checks for $4,150. Payroll and liabilities from March 22nd in the amount of $508,096.16 for a total of $1,832,084.89.
Thank you. I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Salisbury, second by Councilman Bailey, /Borders. All in favor, well, any discussion or additions? Yes.
I would like to abstain from any warrants paid to traveling computers.
Okay. Any other discussion or amendments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I vote aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. I took a little break there, Councilwoman Salisbury, because I was used to you being on the phone, and I was waiting to listen to you say aye. All right, next up is ordinance number 24001, first reading, Fidelity Bonds. City Administrator's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. As a first-class city, Wyoming statute governs a lot of what we do, specifically Chapter 3 of Title 15. Within that chapter, there is a matter that addresses fidelity bonds for first-class cities. And there are references in your packet. I won't take the time to read all of them pursuant to state statute, but I will read a few in the sense that statute does require that all elected officers be qualified electors of the city, entitled to vote on all elections therein. And then specific to the topic tonight, it states that each officer shall give bond in an amount and upon conditions as are provided by ordinance. Later in state statute, it also explains that officers outside of those that are just elected, which include you and the council mayor, includes appointed officers. And in first-class cities, this is defined in statute as the clerk, the treasurer, the engineer, the attorney, police chief, judge, and department heads. But there's also a provision that says unless otherwise determined by municipal ordinance. So as a first-class city, you do have the ability to designate by ordinance your appointed officers. Wyoming Statute 151124 specifically states that the governing body of any city and town shall require the treasurer and may require any other official or employee to post bonds for the performance of their duties. The bonds shall be from a surety company licensed to do business in the state in the amount as the governing body determines, payable to the city or town, and shall be filed with the city or town clerk. The city or town clerk shall pay the bond costs of any filing. Excuse me, the city or town shall pay the bond, not clerk.
Thanks.
Important clarification. There are other references in state statute that pertain to the topic of fidelity bonds. Municipal code currently addresses the above statutory requirements that I've referenced and that are in your packet, specifically sections 208020, 228040, and 236020. In brief, they require a bond from the clerk treasurer or city treasurer in an amount not less than $50,000, and then a blanket bond of not less than $25,000 for all other officers and employees. It also states that there shall be a $1,000 bond for the chief of police and a $1,000 bond for the municipal judge. City staff recently reviewed fidelity bonds with the city's attorney. In response, Mr. Sollers advised the city to consider an amendment to the existing municipal code to specifically address requiring the bond for employees or officials who receive or administer funds on behalf of the city. He also advised the governing body to review the current limits of the required bonds, since state statute leaves the bonding limits open for you as a governing body to decide. So statute does give us direction as to who should be bonded, and then it does give you the power as the governing body to establish the bonding limits, which we already have in our own municipal ordinance. And included in this report that you had an opportunity to review are several examples throughout the state of Wyoming of other municipal ordinances as it relates to fidelity bonds and who is included and which limits are set by their ordinance. City staff has proposed Ordinance 24001 for your review as you consider the topic of fidelity bonds. That's included in your packet, and I'll go through that in detail in a moment. As far as your available actions tonight, you may amend the proposed bonding limits that are listed in the proposed ordinance. You can propose alternative language to the ordinance. You can make no change and keep the fidelity bond limits as it currently is listed within the municipal code, and obviously take other actions as appropriate. When it comes to budget impact, there's no immediate budget impact per se because we already require bonds of our employees. However, the proposed ordinance does include additional employees to be listed under the bonding amount. Therefore, the premium associated with that fidelity bond would need to be covered in the budget. And for an example, that premium could run anywhere from $300 annually to $600 annually. It just depends on the amount that's set. I won't go through the examples that are included in your packet as it relates to other municipalities, but I will reference that the proposed ordinance does amend the current listing in municipal code to state that every officer having custody of money belonging to the city shall enter into, before entering their office, shall secure a fidelity bond. When it relates to the amount, we're proposing an increase because we felt that that was appropriate, especially as I've spoken with other city administrators throughout the state. It changes the minimum amount for the clerk treasurer or the treasurer from $50,000 to $100,000. The ordinance also proposes that the city administrator should post a bond of not less than $100,000. And then there is still the blanket bond provision, which states that all officers and employees will be covered under that blanket bond, but we are specifically listing as well the mayor and the council president. The reason for that is the mayor and council president are listed as signatories for transactions, as well as I am. So that's why it's important that I'm also included in that. I'm also adding a provision, or proposing a provision for your consideration, that the governing body may by resolution increase the amounts of the bonds and may also require similar bonds to be furnished by any employee having custody of funds within the city. Our current ordinance states that the bond will be filed with the county clerk. That's in contrast to what's required in the statute. So that's being amended to say that it will be filed with the city clerk, except for the bond that's related to the clerk, and that would be filed with the city administrator. With that, Your Honor, you have opportunity to consider fidelity bonds as they relate to the city of Riverton, and also discuss the appropriate limits as within your authority as the governing body.
Thank you. Administrative Services Director, Ms. Harris, would you please read ordinance number 24001 by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. An ordinance amending Title II, Administration and Personnel, Chapter 2.08, City Officers and Employees Generally, to revise Section 2.08.020, Bonds of the Riverton Municipal Code, and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith, and providing for an effective date.
Chair would entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Councilman Larson with the motion, Councilman Bailey with the second. Should have said Borders this time.
That's okay.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
I vote aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion passes. I declare the public hearing open. This hearing will be conducted in accordance with state statutes and other applicable laws. I'd ask individuals wishing to address the council on this item to approach the podium, identify yourself for the record. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak?
Jose Pro. I'm just curious, I'm listening to these bond things. Now, these bonds are for public work, right? And what does it do for you guys? What is it exactly for these bonds? Kyle?
Mr. Butterfield, you'd probably be better to answer that.
Sure, Your Honor, Mr. Pro. These are different than bonds that you would secure for financing for like an improvement within the municipality or a public work. This is more a security type bond, and really it's protection for the residents we have, the constituents and the taxpayers. Fidelity bonds are conditioned upon the faithful performance of the duties that we as officers are charged with performing, and it protects the citizenry or the residents from malpractice.
Yes.
So if in the instance we had a bad actor within the city, the fidelity bond would be called, and that would be paid to the city to cover any damages that could occur.
Okay, yeah. And that's what I wanted to know. I mean, does it protect you guys more than anything else, being part of the city that, I know it's not, I'm always not always on the best side with you guys all the time. But you do put a heck of a lot of work out here, and you guys need to be protected. So it's just something that I wanted to know, for myself and for the public to know, that it is something that should be looked at and should be approved, because, not everybody is okay. So we just need to protect our city a little bit more better. So yeah, I just wanted to know that. So thank you. Thank you for the.
Thank you, sir. So it's more like an insurance than a bond? Pretty much. That's the best way to put it. Anybody else? If not, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So, second.
Is that Councilman Paranto? Very quietly over there. Councilman Paranto,
Quiet
with the
room.
motion.
Mike's away.
Councilwoman Borders with the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I vote aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. I declare the public hearing closed. I'd entertain a motion to adopt ordinance number 24001 on first reading.
So moved.
Councilwoman Cox with the motion, Councilman Larson with the second, as saying so moved. Discussion.
Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Other than inflation, what is our history? First off, what is our history in using bonds?
That's a good question.
And secondly, if we haven't got a history of utilizing them, why do we need to raise them other than inflationary opportunities? Because that's going to cost the city more, not less. Thirdly, it doesn't insure anything if the systems that some people have designed fail. So since we haven't had a long period of time of utilization of bonding, why raise them? Because it's a good idea, or because we're handling greater sums of money, or because we're hiring riskier people?
Let me tell you one thing. When we were talking about this at WHAM, first off, in terms of what amount is appropriate, I have gathered from talking with other people that you could determine that amount just as easily by throwing a dart at a dartboard. There's no magic formula, and that's what I was told repeatedly, and it surprised me. But they do say if you don't have a sufficient bond, then you could get in trouble, which to me sounds very frustrating to try to figure out what an appropriate amount is. That's the first thing that I will tell you, because when we were discussing it, I was like, there's absolutely no science to this. But Mr. Butterfield, go ahead, if you could address that. Have we ever had need to call on a bond at this point that you're aware of?
Your Honor, to my knowledge, we have not called for a fidelity bond, at least in my tenure with the city of Riverton. And as far as the limits, that's really up to the comfort level of the city council. One of the things that we strive to do is protect the organization. So we have dual controls in place. We have separations of duties. So the person who is posting the finances and recording them are not the same individual that can sign a check or produce a check. And so we have, that's one example of the controls that are in place to ensure that we protect the public tax dollars. When it comes to the limit, that's really up to the comfort level of the city council, the level at which you'd like to be protected in case there is a bad actor. And unfortunately, we read the news and there are bad actors in the world that we need to make sure that our residents are protected from. So no, we haven't had an issue that I'm aware of, but we have seen our budget increase. In speaking with some of our other peer municipalities, that's why we threw out the increase as well.
Your Honor, I
Cox.
think that we kind of summed it up in saying it's basically insurance. Is it, you don't want to pay it when you don't use it, but once you need to use it, you're glad you paid for it. I mean, it's insurance.
Yeah.
What is our monthly intake that could possibly be lost?
Your Honor, I don't think I can compute an amount as far as a monthly intake. What I can tell you is that we monitor a $39 million budget, and all of those funds run through our city coffers.
Okay, but what I was really meaning was, if we were taking in 100,000 in water, sewer, and garbage collection, would that be a minimum, or would that be triple that?
Our current, and actually we just had our rate changed, our rates increased, but our typical monthly utility billing for water and sewer and garbage is up in the near $550,000 to $590,000 a month range.
So this isn't nearly enough.
Well, assuming you could lose it all.
Well,
I would just say I think these amounts are, especially with the 100,000 for the Kyle and me as positions, because they're the ones that have the most input with and control and power over those funds. I think these are fair.
And I will say some of the discussion at WHAM too, they were surprised that we didn't have a bond that specifically had covered mayor and council, and that was an interesting thing that I looked at these and I don't necessarily see that like Douglas or Rock Springs specifically list them either though. So that was interesting, at least not an ordinance.
Your Honor, as an example, in the ordinance, we see that in your packet, PAL's ordinance listed the city treasurer be bonded at $10,000 and the blanket bond for other employees at $500. When looking at the city of Evanston, the city clerk and treasurer are both bonded at $10,000, chief of police at $5,000, and the justice at $2,500. Laramie has the treasurer and the clerk treasurer at $50,000 and a blanket bond of $10,000 for all their employees. Rock Springs city clerk is at $1,000, chief of police at $5,000, municipal judge at $5,000. The city of Casper establishes $25,000 per occurrence for those that have access to the funds and the finances. And then the city of Douglas sets the minimum amounts at $25,000 for the treasurer and a blanket bond for all of their employees at $25,000. And if I just might add, I believe it's valuable to have a minimum amount. So each year with this ordinance, you as a council could evaluate the risk and propose an increase to the bonding amount, because your ordinance just states it has to be a minimum currently of the $50,000, but it could increase above that, or with the proposed ordinance, a minimum of $100,000.
Mr. Bailey?
Your Honor, and I don't know whether it would be Kyle or Mia, but did you get cost estimates possibly on what these different bond amounts would cost? I know you said like $300 to $600, but.
I'm currently bonded at $100,000 and my premium is $350. I don't have estimates on what the different bonding amounts would be, because it's based on your limits also. So that's going to make a difference one way or the other.
Right.
But we can investigate that and get that information.
And I guess, if anything, my opinion would be, I don't know that $100,000 is enough. Okay, we just, in Finance Committee, just spent just short of $1.4 million in 2 weeks. Okay, so, the amount of money that the city handles, easily justifies the $100,000. But, again, a bad actor could do that pretty easily. So I think we need to keep the limits up reasonable. And again, there's a little bit of cost justification of how much those cost. But I guess I would like to see some estimates on what the next, notches up from that are. And my experience is a lot of times it's not tremendous, the difference. And so, again, we're covering the city and the taxpayer if something bad did happen. For one of these towns to have a $1,000 bond, you might as well not bother.
Or $500.
Or $500 or something. I mean, it's like, that'd be like insuring your Cadillac Escalade for $500. It's like, why would you do that,
Your Honor, there was one example at the conference that we attended where the most trusted employee, after 37 years of trusted employment, only absconded with $57 million. And the repercussions of that were to city services, to the police force, to the retirement fund. It was detrimental.
And I think, I understand what you're both saying in terms of the amount. I guess the one thing to be aware of is that anytime when you're talking about risk, you're talking about that, but you're also talking about the protections in place. I think that's an important thing as a part of the discussion. Yes, the risk is out there of, okay, we have a $1.8 million that was spent, but the protections in place include a finance committee that's looking at that, that's meant to be making sure that this looks correct. We've got 2 people signing the checks. All of those things are protections. Audits. What's that? Audits, yes, regularly. And we've never had issues with, at least our last audits that we've had for the last couple of years. They've had suggestions, they've had things that, these are some better business practices we can do, but never been any findings or anything like that. So I guess what I would say is, yes, there's always those risks in place, but we mitigate those with the protections. Mm-hmm. And so, although I get what you're saying and I agree, okay, sure, there is possibly a risk of losing 1.8 million in a 2-week period. The point is, the people that are here on the Finance Committee would hopefully find that. Mia would find it. Kyle would find it. And so that if there is a risk, the idea is it'd be much lower than 1.8 million. It's a little obvious if you still 1.8 million. So, I hear it. I guess I just see the amounts that the other communities have. I think we're trying to stay on top of it. I think the amount makes sense. There is a certain amount of witchcraft involved, or voodoo, in terms of trying to figure out the right number.
Yeah.
Your Honor, I think it makes sense to move to the proposed amounts, but if we could also ask for Mr. Bailey, and what the additional costs might be. I'd be curious to know what the differential is between what we're paying now versus what the new pricing would look like. But other than that, I think moving forward with this at this point, and if we need to re-examine it down the road, we sure can. So with that, I'd call for the question.
Sounds good.
Your Honor, may I just give a moment real quick? The only reason you didn't get sued for the mishap over here at All Nations for the sewer was because it was a federally funded through Obama. That's the only reason you guys didn't get sued for it. But there was a right to get you sued, just to let you know.
Gotcha. All right, all in favor of passage of, ordinance 24001, say aye.
Aye.
I vote aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. I guess when we come up for second reading, if we could kind of see the difference there, that'd be helpful, since we've gotten through the first reading on it.
Your Honor, we can definitely look into that. And then another thing that you may want to give us feedback on is whether you're comfortable with the blanket bond. By statute, you all should be bonded, as well as anybody else handling cash. We're covering that in the blanket bond, but if you want to call that out, we could as well. So just something to consider.
That's a good
So-
thought.
So are you saying that so right now we would have a policy for Mia, a policy for Kyle, but you can do one policy that covers all of us?
Well, that's-
Or would it
Right
be?
now, we're blanket.
That's
I
what's,
understand.
that's what's in the ordinance now, is 25,000 for signatories.
Yeah, Your Honor,
The
and
only signatory.
And
On Mike?
Your Honor, we can look into that. You'll notice in a lot of the examples with other municipalities that blanket bond is a standard. Securing the blanket bond is something that we work through the details with the appropriate surety. Some of them require that we list specific positions included in that blanket bond, which, as we're definitely proposing, should include our 2 signatories that are on the city council. But then it should also include any of our clerks who have access to cash or received payments. And their potential for risk is much lower than someone who is cutting checks, someone who's recording the finances, reconciling our bank statements. So there's an appropriateness to establishing different limits, but that's another thing for you to consider if you want to move forward with that blanket bond or individually less people.
All right, thank you. We'll discuss that then at our second reading. I propose we take a short recess. Anybody have any problem with that? Let's take a recess until 8:50. So we'll be in recess.
See you, Jose. Take care, man.
Next on the agenda is Lease Amendment Automatic Dependent Surveillance Broadcast, or ADSB for short. Mr. Eggleston, can you give us a report on this item?
Thank you, Your Honor, and thank you for reminding me I had a presentation this evening.
You're welcome, anytime.
We're requesting, this is an amendment to an agreement that was executed back in July of 2013 involving the automatic dependent surveillance broadcaster, the ADSB system up at the Riverton or Central Wyoming Regional. This is a really important piece of equipment infrastructure up there that locates aircraft in the air and keeps them separated, and air traffic control in Salt Lake can monitor it. It's a safety measure. It also tracks airplanes on the ground. We know what's on the ground up at the airport at any given time because it logs. What they're requesting is actually back in 2013, Excelis Incorporated was a company under contract with the FAA to provide this service. They've since been bought out by L3 Harris Technologies. They currently operate the system up there in a secure facility on the airport industrial park. They pay the city of Riverton $100 a month towards our utilities. Back in 2014, they also contributed $10,000 to help upgrade the HVAC system there. And also during this time provided an electric generators backup power. Their agreement with the FAA was just extended, kind of an open-ended. It was 20-some years. Initially, they requested a 20-year lease period, which seemed a little open-ended to us or to myself. So we proposed that give them a new amendment, which would reflect the option to renew the agreement for 4 additional 5-year terms. So they basically get the 20 years, but they has to be done more regularly than that. It's a great service. It doesn't cost the city any money. It actually is one of the income generators up at the airport with the added utility expenses and plus their investment in the facility itself. So with your approval, we'd recommend moving forward with amendment number 2.
Thank you. I'd entertain a motion to approve amendment number 2 for the ADSB system located at Central Wyoming Regional Airport.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Paranto with the motion. Councilwoman Cox with second. Any discussion, amendments?
It's a great piece of equipment to have at our airport. It really is. It also broadcasts weather updates and things of that nature, not just other aircraft. So it's a huge asset to aviation.
Thank you. Appreciate that perspective. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
I vote aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion passes. Resolution 1498, United States Department of Agriculture Rural Business Development Grant Designation of Officials. Mr. Butterfield?
Your Honor, if it's okay, Mia worked on this. This one should be pretty brief in the sense that you've already done this. But we're providing more detail pursuant to USDA. So if it's okay, Ms. Harris can provide that report.
Okay, well, good. Thanks, Ms. Harris. I was actually looking at the name on the report, and I was wondering why my script said Mr. Butterfield. So go ahead, please.
Okay, Your Honor, thank you. Back on February 20th at the regular city council meeting, there was some discussion that ensued regarding the city applying for a USDA RBDG grant, opportunity grant, to conduct a feasibility study for a proposed multi-sports complex here in Riverton. City staff did complete the application, which resulted with the application, all supporting documentation was in excess of 600 pages for that grant. After I had submitted the grant, the City Council approved adoption of Resolution Number 1493, which authorized the submission of the grant and then designated authorized signatories for the grant agreement to be the City Administrator and the Administrative Services Director. USDA did receive my grant application and provided feedback that not only does the resolution need to include our titles, but also our individual names. So I'm back tonight to ask if we could please adopt Resolution 1498, authorizing the submission of the USDA Rural Business Development Grant and authorizing Kyle Butterfield and myself as representatives and signatory on grant matters.
Okay, Administrative Services Director, if you could please read Resolution 1498 by title only.
Yes, Your Honor. Proposed Resolution Number 1498, a resolution of the governing body of the City of Riverton authorizing the submission of a United States Department of Rural Business Development grant to the United States Department of Agriculture, supporting a feasibility study and development of a business plan for a multi-sport recreation facility.
I'd entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 1498, authorizing the submission of a USDA Rural Business Development Grant, authorizing by name Kyle Butterfield and Mia Harris as representatives and signatories.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Larson, second by Councilman Bailey. Discussion, amendments.
Your Honor, I just have two things. Where it says the city has to pay above the $10,000, do we want to put a maximum amount past that? Or do you want to just leave it open, anything above 10,000 for the feasibility?
Your Honor, USDA said the maximum amount that they're going to pay is $10,000. So anything above and beyond that would be at the obligation of the city to fund.
Which feasibility studies can be really expensive, so we could be paying $200,000. Or am I not reading this right?
Your Honor, if I may, Councilwoman, I think you're reading that correctly, but remember that you do have the ability to either enter into the contract or not enter into the contract. So as we solicit proposals or interest, if we find that we cannot get the service within the grant amount, and it is a significant overage, like you're saying, we would return the grant and we wouldn't execute the contract, or you would have that option not to accept it.
And the other thing I want to say is, I think we need to maybe, when we're having our staff do this large of grants, in addition to their regular work, there may need to be, do they have the ability to say, no, this is outside of it, or did they have, I mean, that's like a full-time job writing that kind of grant that our staff's doing in addition to the other one. So I think we need to be aware of that with them. I mean, this is a good thing, but this is a lot for them to do.
How many hours do you think this took?
About 13.
Well, I appreciate your hard
counting.
work. And I hope people understand that that is something, we have a lot of people that have different things that they want the city to do or that they want us to be involved in. It's not something that's just, fly by night, easy to just.
Well, they're just not sitting there at their desk hoping for something to come by that they can work on. They are busy all the time, and we just load them up some more.
So thank you.
Additional than the 13 hours, getting the information, meeting with people, them calling, saying this, I mean, it's a lot, so.
I mean, to this meeting, answering questions.
Well, no, I mean, it's just a lot
It is.
to put on our staff that are already pretty full, so.
I agree. And we have a lot of staff that have been very actively looking for grant opportunities. We have staff in all areas within the city that have been working very hard to try to make sure that we are well-funded and we can do things we want to be doing. And so I appreciate the recognition, and I agree completely.
600 pages is a lot.
It is a bit.
We're here to serve.
All right. Any other discussion? All right. All in favor of passage of Resolution 1498, say aye.
Aye.
I vote aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Motorola phone voice logger upgrade. Chief of Police's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. The police department records all telephone calls, both business and 911, into a Motorola Solutions recording system. There is a separate system that captures police radio transmissions over the statewide WireLink system. The existing telephone system works off a Windows 2008 platform. The radio recording system through WireLink has been in the works to be upgraded throughout the state, and the state is in the process of implementation of the transfer and is set to start May 6th of this year. The state radio system upgrade is funding the radio portion of the voice recorder, but the voice recorder for the radio system can't be heard without the installation of the new telephone radio recording system through NICE. In order for the police department to retrieve both telephone recording and radio recordings, we must upgrade to newer Motorola version 7 NICE recording system, and that cost of the upgrade is $52,206. This apparently has been in the works for a while, and we just received notification that this date is coming up on us. So we have some options that are before you tonight. We can utilize unexpended funds within the capital cost center of the current fiscal year 24 budget and allocate it to cover the expenses of this new recorder. Another option would be to have the city IT create a temporary method to record and retrieve radio and telephone recordings after May 6th. And last option that we, staff can see, is work with IT to create a temporary method to record after May 6th, and we would push back funding for the new recording system back to after July 1st. We understand that if there's any type of glitch that's after May 6th, it's not going to be fixable. It's not going to be a supported system. So we would be dark from possibly May 6th until we decide to buy the new system. So before you is the three options, and staff is open for discussion or recommendations.
All right, I'd entertain a motion to approve the purchase and installation of the Motorola NICE, N-I-C-E, I'm assuming that's an acronym, a telephony recording system, that's always a fun word, for the Riverton Police Department Dispatch Center.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Paranto with the motion. We'll say that was Councilwoman Cox with the second. Discussion. Is that how you pronounce it? Telephony?
Telephony, yeah.
Thank you. I knew you would know.
Now, Your Honor, I can add a little bit of comment. I work with other agencies throughout the state in their 911 dispatch centers, and the ability to record calls and retrieve calls and radio, both phone and radio calls, is tremendously important. And not having that capability not only provides for some liabilities to the city, but also just in terms of functioning. A lot of times the dispatcher will have multiple things going on at the same time. Being able to hit a button to retrieve the last call or the last transmission is really, really important. So having that go down dark for any period of time is, in my opinion, a bad idea.
Is this worth the money then, or is that what you're saying?
Well, and the chief didn't really mention this, but the cost of the unit itself, according to this document, is about $16,000, and the remainder is the installation and implementation. And for this particular quote, they didn't break out the licensing, but Motorola is really proud of everything that says Motorola on it. And we all know we can go out and buy a decent-sized monitor for a few $100s. Well, if it says Motorola on it, it's about $3,000. So everything is kind of amped up, and it kind of comes down to licensing. But the unfortunate side effect is if it doesn't integrate and work with their system and doesn't license within Motorola, it doesn't work seamlessly. So you kind of get stuck over a barrel in utilizing one of two items, either the NICE or a product called Eventide, which is another type of recorder. But the NICE is a far superior product. But yes, we pay for the license to use it.
So you're saying it's nicer?
It's nicest.
And, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
I think the chief was saying that we have this money available in our current budget, which I think would be a good idea, and get it going and have it put in before May 6th.
Any other discussion? I guess we would need to give some direction then. in terms of the motion, it was just to approve the purchase and installation. Do we need a specific motion as to which option we're wanting to use, or Mr. Butterfield or Ms. Harris?
Your Honor, I think if you approve the motion, we'll be able to move forward because there are funds available in the current fiscal year budget that you've already approved. If there weren't funds available and you did want to move forward, we'd have to talk about a transfer of funds of obligated cash and covering that in a budget amendment. But we're not in that instance, so you can approve the purchase and we can move forward.
Anything else?
If it helps, I can amend my motion to specify option A.
I think he's saying we don't need to.
Okay.
I think we're good. Motion was great. All in favor of approval of the purchase and installation of the NICE telephony recording system, say aye.
Aye.
I vote aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Tourism Asset Development Program. This is the one that actually had your name on it, Mr. Butterfield, and that's where I confused. The script was right. I was wrong.
Your Honor, that's fine.
Could we play that back on the recorder, please?
We're gonna build one.
You didn't say that.
Not yet, it has to get installed first.
It's a nice recording.
Your Honor, we've talked a lot recently about the Wind River Visitor Council and the QUORUM Asset Development Program. There's another background in your packet, but I'll skip over that because I know we've talked about this at length. In brief, what's before you tonight is that we're following up on the action that you took on March 19th to assume control of the TAD program. The Chamber previously served as the program's promotion committee pursuant to the Visitor Council rules and regulations. Prior to the recent transition that happened on March 19th, the Chamber had successfully solicited and received applications from community members interested in TAD dollars and promoting their events here in Riverton. City staff has received these applications, there's 16 if memory serves me, and recommends that you as a council utilize these applications as you're looking at the 2024 TAD program. We also recommend that you give the Chamber the opportunity to submit a TAD application. Obviously, they would not have submitted an application to themselves as they were soliciting those previously, and I think that is a fair thing to give them the opportunity. I've been in touch with the Chamber President, Mr. Bunker, and communicated that if he could submit that by this Friday, it would be appreciated. If they need more time, they can let us know. When you're looking at the 2024 TAD program, you have a few options. If you want, you could go out and re-solicit interest from community members. The positive to that is you get a fresh round of applications. The negative to that is we're already encroaching into the summer months when a lot of the applicants who have submitted were hoping to have their program in place and have confirmation that they had the funds available to support their event. So there's a bit of a timing issue that you're facing right now, being that it's already April. The mayor and I have conversed on establishing the promotion committee for 2024, and you have a few options there as well. What's recommended is that you as a council establish a subcommittee of 3 members to review the received applications and the one that would be submitted by the Chamber, and then at the April 16th business meeting, committee or subcommittee of your body would make the recommendations for the entire council to consider. You don't have to do that. If you would rather, you could, as an entire body, receive and review those applications during your business meeting or a work session that's upcoming. Keep in mind that as an entire council, if you're getting together to talk about the applications, you do need to do it through an advertised and appropriately public meeting, a published and public meeting, excuse me. Another option you have is you could solicit interest from community members to serve as the promotion committee, so we could advertise as staff, receive letters of interest of those that would like to participate in the review of applications, and then they would make their recommendation of award to you, similar to how the Edge Committee does that currently. You can take any other action as you see fit. It is staff's recommendation that you form the subcommittee, at least for 2024, of your own body, and to accept the applications that have currently been received, and that will allow you to move forward and keep the program progressing to the needs of the community without too much disruption. As far as the finances, the Chamber very promptly remitted the TAD monies from its account to the city after the aforementioned change happened. Staff also received a quarterly disbursement from the Visitor Council. Ms. Harris worked diligently to establish a separate account as it relates to the TAD program, and it's important to note that these monies are accounted for separate from the general fund, separate from the Edge account, separate from the Force account, separate from the water, sewer, airport, and sanitation fund. So they are accounted for separately. And I appreciate Mia's prompt work in establishing that. There's a little over $31,000 currently in that new account. Thanks, Your Honor.
Thank you. And I had spoken to a couple of individuals on the council, and I'd asked them if they would be willing to be a part of what would be basically a subcommittee that would look at these. My intention was to speak to you all last week when Kyle and I had this conversation, and until I looked at the agenda tonight, I realized I hadn't done that, so I apologize. But what I had recommended for approval for the council would be for Mr. Bailey, who currently serves as the Wind River Visitors Council liaison, and also the Chamber liaison, and then Councilwoman Salisbury, who has served as the Chamber liaison previously, and for Councilwoman Borders to serve as that subcommittee, and then would come to us with a recommendation at our next meeting for us to approve so that we can get this going. And then we could consider how we want to do this going forward, if we want to do something like having a committee like we do with Edge, where we have community members, or if we want to keep doing it in that direction. So that's all things we could keep open, but the motion in particular from Councilwoman Cox at our last meeting was for a committee to be formed. And so keeping with the spirit of the motion, it seemed like it makes sense that for now would be a subcommittee of the council. So I would entertain a motion to establish a promotion committee that would be comprised of 3 of our members to review the 2024 TAD program applications and make recommendations to.
Your Honor, I'll make the motion as you presented it.
Second.
Thank you. Councilman Paranto with the motion, second by Councilwoman Cox. Any other discussion?
Your Honor, will we be able to view those before, I know they'll be on, but will we get that information as well just beforehand so we can look it over?
Your Honor, if you'd like, I'll scan the applications and send them to all of you.
That'd be helpful.
And then, do you have a process, once those are done within the city that you've developed, to, like, give us, like, requirements and what's gonna, like, deadlines and all of the stuff moving forward? Have you guys worked on that yet, or have you had time to?
Your Honor, Councilwoman, some of those deadlines are fluid, specific to once the award is recommended and made by the council. The deadline for dispersing the funds needs to be established. Currently, it's a reimbursable program, is how the Chamber has run it, and so the parties that receive funds expend first and then receive reimbursement. And we can hash out some of those details prior to the committee getting together. I'll also make sure that you're aware of what the anticipated budget would be for fiscal year, for the 2024 program. We have what's in the account right now, but there will be disbursements, and so that will help you know what the limit is of how much to award, because it will be accruing throughout the time that the people are doing their activities and then submitting their reimbursement requests.
Did Helen send her new guidelines that she has those done now for us to go, that she's changed? Okay.
Yeah, Your Honor, Councilwoman, yes, we have received those from Helen.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I vote aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Last item of the night, I'd entertain a motion to convene into executive session for the purpose of personnel pursuant to Wyoming Statute 164405A2 and 164405A10.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Larson with the motion, second by Councilwoman Borders. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I vote aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. We stand and convened into executive session at 9:17 PM. Chair would entertain, or would invite Chief of Police and Mr. Butterfield and Ms. Harris into executive session with us.
I feel like it'd just be funny.
Everything's going.
It can't be a bull barn because bulls don't do anything.
Do you do like allergy?
Yes, they do.
Or do you
They
just
get paid
3 shots?
the rest of
Yeah, well, they're not the generator of income, let me tell you.
My allergies.
So what we do is we shift it to 80 hours.
Oh, it was entertaining.
All right, I'd entertain a motion to reconvene back into regular session.
So moved.
Second.
That was fast.
Ronto, Cox. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. I vote aye. Regular session of the city council is now reconvened at 10:41. Motion to adjourn has been noted. Is there a second?
Second.
Ronto Cox again. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. I vote aye. Motion passes. We are adjourned at 10:41.
The dynamic duo.
Thank you, everyone.
Hey, that's the best motions made right there.
I'll tell you whenever I was in the.
My name in the books is all.
That's how we need to redo this, so we're not all doing it at the same time. They got the other problem. Yeah.
Committee, don't forget to
Empty.